What if I told you that a small group of scientists has been systematically undermining scientific consensus for decades? Welcome, TopThangs fam, to a mind-blowing journey into Merchants of Doubt by Naomi Oreskes and Eric M. Conway, a book that's about to blow the lid off one of the most insidious scientific conspiracies of our time. Imagine a world shrouded in doubt, where scientific consensus is a distant dream. This is the world that a handful of scientists, driven by ideology and funded by special interests, have tirelessly sought to create. These are the Merchants of Doubt. They are not heroes, but rather defenders of dogma disguised as scientific authorities. Their names are etched in the annals of misinformation: Fred Seitz, Fred Singer, William Nierenberg, and Robert Jastrow. These men, initially celebrated for their contributions to science, took a dangerous detour. They used their scientific credentials to sow seeds of doubt on issues crucial to our planet's health. Their tactics were simple yet effective: cherry-pick data, amplify uncertainties, and launch personal attacks on legitimate scientists. Their goal was not the pursuit of truth, but the preservation of an ideology, even at the expense of the planet. These men were not driven by scientific curiosity, but by a rigid ideology forged in the crucible of the Cold War. They saw communism lurking behind every environmental regulation, every attempt to curb corporate power. Their fight was not for scientific truth, but for a worldview under threat. Their legacy is a world grappling with the consequences of their manufactured doubt. The Cold War was a time of immense fear and paranoia. The threat of nuclear annihilation hung heavy in the air. In this pressure cooker of ideology, science became a weapon. For Seitz, Singer, Nierenberg, and Jastrow, scientific progress was not just about understanding the universe, but about maintaining American dominance. They had witnessed the rise of the Soviet Union, a rival superpower challenging the established world order. To them, any challenge to American industry, any regulation, could tip the scales in favor of the communists. Their Cold War mindset blinded them to the very real threats posed by pollution and climate change. These scientists, hailed as heroes in the aftermath of World War II, became prisoners of their own ideology. They saw the environmental movement as a Trojan horse, a way for the Soviets to weaken America from within. This fear, this unwavering belief in American exceptionalism, led them down a dangerous path. They traded their scientific integrity for a political agenda, becoming merchants of doubt in the process. The tactics of doubt honed in the Cold War found fertile ground in the world of corporate interests. The tobacco industry, facing mounting evidence of the harmful effects of smoking, needed a strategy to counter the growing scientific consensus. Enter our Merchants of Doubt. Seitz, Singer, Nierenberg, and Jastrow, with their impressive scientific credentials, became the perfect spokesman for the tobacco industry's agenda. They understood that public perception mattered more than scientific truth. Their task was clear: create the illusion of controversy where there was none. Their strategy was deceptively simple. They would cherry-pick data, highlighting any uncertainty, however small, to cast doubt on the overwhelming evidence linking smoking to cancer and other diseases. They would attack the credibility of legitimate scientists, accusing them of being alarmist or politically motivated. And they would fund their own research, carefully selecting studies that supported their narrative. This was the birth of the Tobacco Playbook, a blueprint for manufacturing doubt that would be used again and again. As the evidence of human-caused climate change became irrefutable, the Merchants of Doubt found a new target. Their playbook, honed in the trenches of the tobacco wars, was dusted off and deployed with chilling effectiveness. The enemy this time was not just scientific consensus, but the very future of our planet. The tactics remained the same: sow doubt, create confusion, and delay action. They cherry-picked data, highlighting periods of cooling to argue against the long-term warming trend. They attacked climate models, ignoring the fact that these models have been remarkably accurate in their projections. These tactics, while familiar, found a new resonance in the digital age. The internet, with its echo chambers and filter bubbles, became a breeding ground for misinformation. The Merchants of Doubt, aided by a network of think tanks and media outlets, successfully created a parallel universe where climate change was a hoax, a liberal conspiracy, anything but the urgent crisis it truly is. Section 5. A pattern of deception, acid rain, ozone, and beyond. The fingerprints of the Merchants of Doubt can be found on a staggering array of issues. From acid rain to the ozone hole, they have consistently sought to undermine scientific consensus and delay action on critical environmental problems. Their modus operandi remains consistent: deny, delay, and deceive. They claimed acid rain was a natural phenomenon, ignoring the clear link to industrial emissions. They argued that the ozone hole was caused by volcanoes, not CFCs, despite overwhelming scientific evidence to the contrary. Their goal was never to engage in honest scientific debate, but to protect the interests of their funders, the tobacco industry, the fossil fuel industry, and other corporate giants threatened by regulation. Their legacy is a world struggling to cope with the consequences of their manufactured doubt, the acid rain that devastated forests and lakes, the ozone hole that exposed us to harmful UV radiation. These are just two examples of the real-world damage caused by their relentless campaign of misinformation. Section 6. The High Cost of Doubt, a Legacy of Inaction. The consequences of doubt are not theoretical, they are real and they are devastating. The delay in addressing climate change, fueled by the merchants of doubt, has cost us precious time. The planet is warming, ice caps are melting, and extreme weather events are becoming more frequent and more severe. The human cost is incalculable. Millions are already suffering from the effects of climate change, from droughts and famines to floods and wildfires. The displacement of communities, the loss of livelihoods, the spread of diseases, these are the real-world consequences of inaction. Inaction sown by the seeds of doubt. The merchants of doubt may have believed they were acting in the best interests of their country, their ideology, or their corporate sponsors, but their actions have had a profound and lasting impact on our planet and on humanity. Their legacy is a world struggling to avert a climate catastrophe, a world where trust in science has been eroded, and where doubt has become a potent weapon in the wrong hands. Section 7. The Power of Doubt, Why It Works. Doubt in the hands of skilled manipulators is a powerful weapon. It preys on our natural tendency to seek simple answers in a complex world. It exploits our fear of the unknown and our reluctance to accept inconvenient truths. The merchants of doubt understood this, and they used it to their advantage. They knew that creating the illusion of controversy was enough to paralyze action. They understood that if they could keep the debate alive, if they could convince people that the science was still unsettled, then they could delay action indefinitely. And in many cases, they succeeded. The human brain is wired to avoid uncertainty. Doubt creates a sense of unease, a cognitive dissonance that we are hardwired to resolve. The merchants of doubt exploited this, offering false certainty in the face of complex scientific issues. They gave people permission to disbelieve, to cling to their own biases and preconceived notions. Section 8. Fighting Back, Defending Science and Our Future. The fight against misinformation is a fight for our future. We cannot afford to let doubt paralyze us any longer. The stakes are too high, but how do we combat something as insidious as doubt, especially when it is wielded by those who appear to have the authority of science on their side? The first step is education. We need to equip ourselves with the tools to critically evaluate information, to distinguish between legitimate scientific debate and manufactured controversy. We need to understand the tactics used by the merchants of doubt, the cherry-picking, the ad hominem attacks, the appeals to emotion, so that we can recognize them and call them out. We need to support scientific institutions and demand transparency from our elected officials. We need to hold the media accountable for giving a platform to misinformation and amplify the voices of legitimate scientists who are working tirelessly to communicate the urgency of the crisis we face. The fight against doubt is a fight for our collective future. It is a fight that we cannot afford to lose. If this blew your mind, subscribe to TopThangs, share this video, become a truth warrior.